Namaskar and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sattology, debunking mythology. You know, Sat means truth, Logos is a science or a study. Sattology means a study of truth, science of truth. Mythology means is a true antonym. Myth in Sanskrit means a lie, fake, imagination. Logos means a study or science. So mythology is a word, means study of fake, study of a lie or imagination. But we have seen that the ancient Vedic scriptures have been a great boon to all the societies of the world. In fact, yoga and meditation have come from those scriptures, including the importance of being vegetarian. Today, many of the vegetarian athletes, yesterday I met a vegan bodybuilder, and I can tell you, everyone will be envious of his body. And he is also practicing meditation and yoga in his life. So the problem comes in when we think we are higher than others, better than others, exceptional, and we do not listen to a sane advice. So today I have my good friend and a singer, author, and a very good philosopher, and also a Jyotish astrologer. And joining me, Vedic astrology is his forte. And he's joining me again to share with me on this discussion. This is a discussion, not an interview. So let us watch this. And if you have any questions, you can live ask us right now. So without delay, let us welcome Jeffrey Armstrong.
Pranam Adi, and to everyone, thanks for joining us. Thanks for having me, Adi. Very important time in history to talk about these issues.
So when we talk about exceptionalism, what will a linguist like you say about exceptionalism?
Except what? Well, the first thing is, what is really on the table here is a definition of who we are. It's very important to know this because it is the definition of our self and ourselves that is the root of the definition of our civilization. And right now, and for many years, we've been in the midst of a battle to prove that one country should exist and the others should be somehow made less or destroyed or go to war. We've been infected with this problem for quite a few years now. I grew up in the midst of it, with wars like the war against Vietnam. And as a quite young man, they wanted to send me over there to kill innocent women and children. And so this conversation has gotten more and more important. In my case, I looked for truth instead of politics. And that led me to Bharat, to India, and the Vedas. And what I found there in the Sanskrit was a core of truth that's always true, that had never been given to me by any political ideology or culture or country on the planet until that time.
You bring to such an important point. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Amanina manadena kirtanya sadhari, giving all respect to others, expecting nothing in return. But here in the exceptional scenario, we want all the respect for ourselves while giving nothing in return. Is it a long-term viewpoint or is it a very myopic, short-term viewpoint?
Well, Adi, that's a very important question. It's like diseases progress in our body. If we're not careful, certain toxic ideas, I have a saying that I made up about that if you have toxic ideas, then you'll talk sick. In other words, we are trained how to talk dysfunctionally by the culture that wants to manipulate us. And that's called education. And that's the part that most of us didn't understand. So as I went through education, and I have multiple degrees, trying to understand the truth from the lies of the education. Education comes from educare in the Greek, which comes from adhikari in the Sanskrit. And adhikari means your grade in school from life to life. in the millions of lifetime of evolution that we're all going through. So what I found was I was in a small world that was getting smaller by the hour, with small-minded people trying to say, we're better just because we're us. That's the exceptionalism, but there's a name for that in Sanskrit. It's called ahamkara. I am my body, and therefore I'm right because I am my body.
You touched upon such a deep topic about identity crisis, I call it. And where we when we speak about aham brahmasmi, and there we are going beyond the cycle of body. Now, people generally show others low when they themselves have doubts over their own self. It's a very natural human phenomenon. And so when somebody says like this, I am better than you, there are three fingers pointing towards himself and one up to the God, whosoever it is, that I'm better than everyone else. Three times better than you and one time better than God. So when we have that kind of mindset, can any society survive that long-term view?
This is really important, Adi, because this word that we're going to say next, or that I'm going to take us to next, the one you're pointing to, is blind faith. The real issue is, do you have sat? This is the discussion on Sattology. Do you have sat, or are you embracing a mythical story that was made up to confuse you and to give you a story to tell that makes your culture or country or yourself right? That's a problem. So this process of making you better than everyone else is the first step in lying to you forever.
There was a movie, and in which a hero says, America doesn't like smart asses. Now, there was a line. And now people may say that, okay, it's a Democrat viewpoint or it's a liberal viewpoint.
I call it a democracy. Demos means all the people, but they're pretending it came from the Greek. But it's a democracy for sure.
I found it to be really true in my corporate world. I'm still actively involved in the corporate side, but I found it to be really true, because if someone is better, they immediately pull him down because they feel they have the right to be exceptional. And it goes on in universities, it goes in schools, colleges. And when the McDonald's culture spreads across the world, it goes into whoever is consuming the product also. And
excuse me, Adi, let's use their right name. It's McDoggy.
That's true. But but the this culture, Mac culture, when it goes everywhere else, it is also inducing people to behave that way. Now I'll tell you, the original native cultures of the world, Japan, India, China, and to some extent Russia, but Russia is still a conquered country. Faith-based colonies have conquered it. And to some extent Middle East. So when we see those societies, they have many, many years of culture or misculture, whatever they have. When they hear the Mac culture, now they are automatically threatened. And because somebody is claiming to be telling them something, and which Bhagavad Gita goes exactly opposite of that. Bhagavad Gita goes in where you go in and you discover yourself first. And then you start talking about yourself more on an soul level, but not on the body level. So what do you have to say on this? The export of except Mac culture, how does it affect the consciousness?
Yes, Ronald McDonald for president, I say. If we can have Ronald Reagan, I think he should be next. I did want to point out that if, in case you're interested in history, the word history comes from the Sanskrit itihasa. And the point of history is to learn from somebody's mistakes so we don't make them again. So the Mahabharata and the Ramayana are the largest and most ancient and most complete and most profound history books on our planet. So if you do not study history, the saying is those who do not study history are bound to repeat it, are bound to fall under the same illusions. So when someone wants to control you, they first flatter you and delude you as to who you really are, tell you you're great because you're a member of such and such, and then they put a gun in your hand and say, now we got to go kill those others over there because they're not as good as we are. This is the basic manipulation.
Now, in the campuses, we regularly hear about being a new thing being talked about is American exceptionalism, which came from classical liberalism, which was conservatism, became conservatism. Now, these are the philosophies that exist. And now we have another one, which is yoga and dharma, which is a very popular personal choice of millions of American students. And now it is conflicting because the moment you have yoga, now the general view is that the exceptionalists, they think that the yoga guys are the least productive of the lot. They think they are psychedelic, they are imaginary, they live in an alternative world, and the practical side is missing to a large extent, but which is totally not true also, because we have seen people who practice yoga and meditation are more productive, are more rational in their approach, and they're more accommodative. So where do you think is the fault line in their exceptionalism philosophy?
But let's define this a little more. I think asking questions is the secret here. So the question is, who are we and why are we here? That's the first question that we should all be asking. What is this all about? And if someone tells you it, don't ask big questions, just ask the ones about what belongs to who. Then I say, who? I thought you said don't ask about that. So you do have a definition of who we are. So I want to take you back to the Catholic Church, because in the last 3,000 years, they are the biggest player in giving a self-definition to the world. And that is, you have one lifetime. You aren't qualified to think, so we're going to tell you what to think. Most people don't know this, but in the time of Henry VIII, when the printing press was just invented, when England stopped being Catholic because Henry VIII wanted to divorce his wife and marry a younger hottie that he was enamored with, there was an argument between him and the Pope. And the argument was, the Pope said, I'm in charge, you can't have your divorce. And the king said, no, I'm in charge, I can do what I want. Meanwhile, Columbus went out around the world, and others like him. What gave them the impression they could do that? The Pope issued a papal bull saying, I give you all European cultures who are Catholic permission to go out in the world and take everything, because we are divinely empowered and everyone else is more or less an animal. And they called them persona non grata, which actually means they look like a person, but you don't have to treat them as one. So I just want to remind everyone that this is the sign that you're showing respect to everyone else at their very core and honoring them as a being who's worthy of your respect because they exist, not because of money, wealth, power, fame, or anything else, or your religion saying you're better than them. So exceptionalism's enemy is namaste.
So well put, extremely well put over there. Now I'm going to a little bit make me laugh, you make me laugh. So here, when we talk about namaste and we fold our palms, and the COVID-19 forced all of us to fold our palms because the shake hand became the biggest source of transmission of diseases. And it has been proved again that a simple uh, act in the Vedic culture is also scientific. So where does American exceptionalism lead as compared to science?
You know, this is, if you really understand this, there's an irony in this next step. The exceptionalism that the Pope gave to everyone who went out into the world led them to have the assumption that everyone that they went to conquer was ignorant, was less than them, didn't have anything to offer. And now at the same moment, an unauthorized person in England started translating the Bible into English from Latin, the language of the Pope and the Catholic Church. This is very important because he was a scholar at Oxford, and he knew that the English language was a just garbled mess, and he had to do something to sort it out. And he knew that the people who were Christian were being told what was in the Bible, but weren't being given access to what was in the Bible. This is about exceptionalism. A certain group of people know Latin and tell you what to do. This was the status of England in 1450, just a little before the Pope put out his papal bull saying Columbus and everyone could go conquer and take and steal everything from the world. And at the same time, the printing press came out. And at the same time, an unauthorized person who was eventually executed for translating the Bible into English. What I want you all to understand that no one has told you in school is that it was capital punishment for questioning the authority of Rome. Rome sent everyone out around the world in the name of the Pope to take everything because we're special and better. And everyone did it on blind faith. And this is where the concept that we're somehow superior emerged from. It emerged from this terrible lie that led to us going around the world and treating everyone, all human beings, as if they were animals. We have not escaped from that ignorance yet. It is still running our world.
Very few people know it. What you're saying is probably you know it, but very few people know it, this fact. And I think this is a highlight of this video, where we are actually, people can go and research it out and they can check it out on their own. And
connect with me. I'll give you all the leads. I'll tell you the names you need to find for yourself.
Do you have any name you can say on the video so we can they hear it?
Well, just look up papal bull. It's a little interesting word, I know. Also, I'll tell you another funny story in a minute, but papal bull, but it's not considered bull to the Pope, but it's the papal bulls are on record. Look for the papal bulls that started the process. It's called discovery. It's a legal term, and it means I come here with the right to take your property, your land, enslave you, and make you Catholic because the Pope told me to do it. So I'm exceptional. You're an animal. I'm special. I get to take all your stuff. And this is the basis of what we now call a corporation.
And when you do, that's why they say bulls and bears. And in the stock market, bulls and bears.
Bear market. Yeah.
So when we say bears, so is that the opposite meaning of papal bull then? Bear?
I think it's a pretty poetic rhyme. Basically, I'll tell you another funny one. The university in England that did the most mischief to India, that twisted and made propaganda to do anything they could to demean it, to diminish it, invent it. They had scholars working and being paid a lot of money to invent stories about it that denigrated India. So Oxford, the word ford in English is a place where you cross a river. So it took me many years to understand completely, but Oxford is where the oxen crossed the river, and that's where they built the university, and that's why it's got so much bull.
Now, Nandi,
The bulls pass stool as they're crossing on the ford. It's the bullshit of Oxford, folks. I have to say it. And I'd like to debate it publicly with some scholars from Oxford to talk about the time when they helped England take over the world and tell everyone else you're not people. Let's talk about that.
Now, today's show is live to Oxford also.
Good.
So,
of course, they're not. Nobody's altogether evil. That's what we're saying. But essentially, this is something they've got to account for, and they never have. So I think it's a great time. Oxford, stand up and tell us where all that bull came from. Okay.
So all the people who are proud of Oxford in India, you should know what it's worth, because you may be follower of Oxford, but I am follower of Nandi. Totally opposite of the guy over there, because so we can call that we are proud worshippers of Nandi, and who are trying to protect ourselves from the Oxfords of the world.
And also, only the culture of India has the wisdom to understand that the fecal matter of cows and bulls is entirely antiseptic.
Correct.
And that's why it's made into incense, because it's actually healthier and purer than anything, even that goes into your body. It's an antiseptic. When I found this out, I took a bath in fresh cow dung.
Nilesh told me a story about Saudi Arabia, and he said when he went to the airport and he was seeing camel piss being sold over there at the airport. And the same people, when they go on the social media, they accuse the Hindus that they drink cow's milk. But, medicinally, camel's piss has much worse qualities than the other side. So people, when they laugh at it, then I can say, hey, look at your airports, what they're drinking. And it's officially being sold. And big businessmen, politicians, they proudly drink it as like Coca-Cola or some other drink they might be drinking.
Now, the reason we're mocking these things is because they've so been
exceptionalism.
Yeah. Exceptionalism. We're knocking them down a peg and challenging them because it's that hasn't been going on. And blind faith, starting with the Pope, was older than that, but really getting its momentum with the Pope and going on from there, has infected our learning institutions, has infected our politics, has infected our so-called religions, and they have then made negative and hurtful and demeaning propaganda about all the cultures of the world that they destroyed. In the case of India, they took on someone bigger than them, with more knowledge, with a better language, Sanskrit, with a greater history, with a highly organized learning-based civilization. So they actually chose the wrong culture to make fun of, and now it's our turn.
One of the interesting things is that this exceptional disease is not just related to just one aspect of Abrahamic faith. There are three Abrahamic faiths. It is in all three of them. And all three of them also compete with each other on exceptionalism scale. And then, I'll tell you one, Arab Hindi Kosh, which is a dictionary of Arabic and Hindi. They describe Hindus as black, dark, ugly, and most cunning, thieves. And therefore, there is a story of Ali Baba Chalis Chor, like the Ali Baba and 40 thieves. And all 40 thieves have to be non-Arabs. So this is what they say and propagate also. And that has gone into the campuses in a big way. Like last time we talked about wokeism, and in that, again, it has gone back in. Now, this is directly affecting, there are a lot of Americans, 50 to 60 million Americans practice yoga. So when we talk about exceptionalism and going against yoga and meditation, then it is affecting all of them at the same time.
And as one who woke up into yoga, let me explain something to you. if you're a truth seeker in any sense of the word, from any culture, at any time, any place, then you basically, in America, it is a saying, don't give me BS, give me the truth. What you're trying to say is, don't give me something that's empty and devoid of calories and won't nourish me. Give me something that is truthful, be straight with me. So this is the essence of Sanskrit and the way it is applied in the Veda. It is to be a beacon of truth-telling and to stay honest and candid. Now, that doesn't mean that it wasn't misused and abused in India on its own without anyone else doing that. That's what the Mahabharata is. But the Veda contains the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita as explanations of how not to get lost in truth-telling and how people can pretend to tell the truth in the name of things that saying that they're sacred. So it isn't that the rest of the world invented them. It was that the most important text explaining how not to fall into that trap was left behind as the historical legacy of India. And it's called the Mahabharata, which is a lengthy, profound explanation, as relevant today as when it was spoken 10,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago, about how to be a truth teller. And that's what we're saying. Don't join another club. Don't say, oh, okay, then I'm in the Hindu blind faith club. No, don't join a club. Instead, learn discernment, be the Atma, be Adhikari, learn from great teachers who are truth tellers, and then embody that in what you do. That's what we're saying. Just in case you think this is another form of exceptionalism. It's not. It's a truth telling that proves itself again and again and is proven through discussion like we're doing right now. And what we're really inviting, Aditya Satsangi is the sort of leader of this, saying, come on, let's have a debate at Oxford. Come on, let's talk with everyone. Doesn't mean be hateful. I'll tell you a secret word. It's argument. Argue is from argentum or silver. And argue means rubbing things together, and then they shine brighter because you find the truth. This is what the process we're showing you. We're not being unpleasant to others and speaking badly of them. We're rubbing them the wrong way so that they'll have a public discussion about matters of real truth and consequence. And we're suggesting to you directly that this is the basis of the Vedic civilization, to rub ideas together until the truth comes out.
So, by the way, do join Sattology clubs. We call them Sattology clubs in your campuses.
For sure.
and we call them clubs for a reason, because you only have fun. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Keval Ananda Gandha, simply enjoyment. And like me and Jeffrey are having fun and discussing about these esoteric topics, which no professor would discuss. Jeffrey is an author of many poems. I think it will come out. And he's an author of a very popular book, Gita Comes Alive. Do get it. And I have written 6 books. And my 7th one is getting launched next week. So if you turn to Sattology on Amazon, you can see that. But the point is different, that we are also inviting you for a discussion and a debate. Debates, it has to be healthy, and it brings out the best course in the society. When we call ourselves,
I like argue better because debate means to beat on, but our argument means to rub together, and it originally came from the word Arjuna.
Right. Oh.
So I call the Bhagavad Gita Arjuna's argument with Bhagavan. They didn't debate. They weren't trying to win. They weren't angry at each other. Arjun was laughing at Bhagavan and saying, really, you think we can do yoga? This is impossible. And Arjun was Krishna was looking at Arjun and saying, what, you're supposed to be a warrior and you're crying and you throw your bow down in front of everyone? It's an amazing story, but it's an argument, meaning at the end, the truth shines brighter and brighter. That's the Sattology.
And one good thing you brought about it, that Arjun did ask difficult questions to Krishna, and Krishna doesn't lose his patience. He answers all of them patiently.
It's a great question. Oh, ask it.
And then after the questions are asked and everything, he accepts it also. Nowadays the trend has become that we all start misquoting different aspects. First of all, never quote or never search Hinduism on Wikipedia. It's the worst source to get it. Okay, so you can better go to Gita Comes Alive, or you can come to many Gita class Jeffrey does, or you can come to Sattology courses, which are running in your own universities, 12
And
session
if you,
courses.
yes, I call it Wikipedia. They're really wicked. They're the wicked witch of the West, for sure.
Yeah.
Twisting everyone's truth. But when you find an answer, check it. Go check it with another sadhu. Sadhu means one who cuts through the ropes that bind us to ignorance with the axe of true knowledge. So when you get an answer, go ask another sadhu. When someone gives you a definition, look for another source and another source. This is the sadhu culture and the rishi culture of India, of Bharat.
The people have forgotten about Muni and Rishis, and people accuse me why I call somebody all these titles. But the point is, all these Rishis, Narada, Vedvyas, and Shukadev, Shritabhranga Muni, Sutikshana Muni, Matanga Muni, Vishrava Muni, and even Pulastya Rishi, these are the scientists. Because, see, science is all about experience. You can write unlimited philosophies on rocketry, but unless you see the rocket flying, you don't believe in it. So the beauty of yoga and meditation is experiential. Like when you taste it, then you find the value in it. What do you have to add on that? So exceptionalism versus experientialism. This is what we need to choose between.
I actually call the philosophy that comes from the Bhagavad Gita epic existentialism, because we are all important in this viewpoint. Every single living entity. This is why the Vedic viewpoint leads to respect for every creature, their habitat, everything. We step carefully so that everywhere we care for the habitat of all the living entities. Right now, just go on, what was it called? The TV channel that everyone watches.
Netflix,
yeah, go on Netflix and look for the British guy who talks about ecology. What's his name? Remember him? Yeah, he speaks with a British accent, and now we're in Africa, and this is
Edinburgh.
Edinburgh, yeah, thank you.
David
So he's done a wonderful film about the pivotal moment we are in history right now in terms of the ecology of the planet. And this is him. He's about my age, about 75 or so. He's been doing this all his life. At first, getting to know the planet and helping everyone, and now speaking that it's in danger, that we are the danger to the planet right now. And this is what the exceptionalism has led to. We're so great that we get to destroy our planet. And he's now warning everyone about it as well, as the final step of his gift of caring about nature. So this, my point being, the Vedic civilization shows this respect and tries to learn from every living entity. And just because we're different, we don't dislike each other. We admire one another. And this is the ahimsa protective culture.
You brought a good point, because in last 100 years, somebody is telling me, there is not a single year has passed where there are no two simultaneous wars going on in the society. And they're talking about the major ones. I'm not talking about the crimes. This is what has gone on. And somebody also joked, actually, and it's a bad joke or whatever, excuse me on that. But somebody said it's a reset after the pandemic, global pandemic. It's a reset time for the ecology. The environment was revived because people were inside.
Right. We've been so busy fighting against each other. We've not been watching that what our leadership worldwide, not everywhere, but all the industrial powers and all the major powers are in some degree or the other destroying the planet in the name of being right. And this is just insane. This is the insanity. And then they call themselves exceptional. Exceptional at what? Destroying the planet faster than everyone else.
Exceptional at insanity.
Right. Absolutely. So this is, if you can just understand, we should be at red alert right now. That's what his film was about. That we're at red alert on everything, on the oceans, on the water, on the fish, on the life, on the atmosphere, on everything. So really at this point in time, we need a new kind of thinker. We need sadhus who discuss and debate like we're doing right now. We're essentially role modeling for you, being individuals in society and insisting on having a viewpoint without being violent, without being aggressive, without being hurtful, without being hateful, but while seeing everyone with the respect of being a divine being, an Atman. We're saying to them, please look at what we're doing to our planet. Stop, slow down, change our behavior, change everything. And where that comes from, where every one of us, like myself from the West, got it from Bharat, from India, 100%. And the indigenous cultures, those two groups of people had this, kept trying to say it, and were ignored and beaten down and colonized in the last 300 years. And this has got to change. That's what we're saying.
No, that's the voice of John Doe as well as Juan Diego, because we are commoners like that, and maybe we may not be as known as them, but still it's a valuable point. So exceptionalism versus dharma. Dharma always wins. And we have,
and you don't have to be famous to tell the truth.
Yes.
You may get famous.
We can be the John Does of the society, but this is the truth.
Well, the Pillsbury Doughboy and John Doe kind of stop eating at McDonald's, eat some healthy food, use some healthy herbs, and save the planet, protect one another, and say no more of this crazy nuclear weapon, destroy each other madness. We're all one family of beings. We've got to stop this.
So in Hindi, the word for John Doe equivalent to in Hindi is Ram Bharose. So Ram Bharose means who is always dependent on Ram. So he's a Ram Bharose. So
I see.
All right. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. And I really enjoyed the show. And I have viewers also enjoyed it. And I did ask all the questions that you had in mind. And also, I'm going to, next week, we might have a trilateral debate from an Oxford professor, with an Oxford professor. So thank you. Yes.
No, thanks, Adi.
Please go ahead. But you're saying something.
I was just going to say, one of my favorite verses in the Gita is Yad Yad Acharati Shreshtas. It means an acharya is one who moves the way they talk. So it's easy to talk like this, but we live like this, and you can and should. So whatever your words are, you should live those, and not just for you, but for yourself and the well-being of all. That's really what we're saying together here. Thank you, Adi, for take all of the effort you take to make this happen. It's really wonderful.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. And thank you, all of you. Do comment on the video, get involved. In fact, there is a playlist called Gita, which is only mine and Jeffrey's talks. So all are together. You can do binge watching today and let me know what you think tomorrow. Thank you. Namaste.